And so my last question for the week about Monday Night Raw is, was Sami Zayn declaring himself for a world title shot with his promo kind of reassuring the audience that he's a world title caliber superstar? Lots to unpack here. I guess I kind of got to break this down into two things because it's kind of a twofold question. Number one, was Sami told to say that? Or did Sami go into business for himself with his opening promo and kind of let the world know, hey, this is what I deserve? And the second part of that question for me is Sami even still a world title contender, or has he cooled off too much at this point? When I first heard the line on Monday Night Raw, I don't even know that I thought too much about it. I thought it was more of a throwaway line. I thought that promo was more focused at Sami talking about Kevin Owens and Jey Uso. And then the internet started to bubble up a little bit, and I went back and rewatched it, and I go, oh, okay, hold on. There might have been deeper layers to what Sami was saying. So to answer question number one, I'm guessing that this is a little bit of both. He might have been told to go out there and speak from the heart, but I do think Sami still feels a little bit slighted from what happened at Elimination Chamber. No matter how you feel about Roman Reigns and his title run, I think Sami Zayn thinks that was his opportunity to take the ball and run with it. And I think that he was trying to remind the crowd that, like, hey, remember how much you love me? I can get back there. But to answer the second part of the question, I think is a little more difficult. At this moment, is Sami Zayn truly a candidate and a contender for a world heavyweight title? So let's look at who are the legitimate contenders right now to be world heavyweight champion once Seth Rollins' title finally comes to an end. And I think you have 5 names. You have Gunther, you have Jey Uso, you have Damian Priest, you have Drew McIntyre, and I'm going to put Sami Zayn on that list right now for argument's sake. So the question becomes, I guess, is where does he fall in that hierarchy? Because the way I see it, it's too easy. A lot of people do this. A lot of the IWC do this, where they just rattle off names and say, well, that guy deserves a world title. But world titles are really about what's best for business and who can drive the narrative forward and where do you fit in the timeline. I talk about this all the time with people like Dominic Mysterio and Darby Allin. I've been told so many times that Darby Allin should be a world champion, and I go, when? Where do you fit him in AEW? Where do you fit him in? Because I don't ever see the point in time that Tony Khan and AEW feel comfortable enough to put the company on the back of Darby Allin. He's great. He draws. He's fun to watch. He's not a world champion, especially not at 4-7. So you have to start asking those questions, those difficult questions when it comes to talking about guys that are fan favorites, but are they world title contenders? Is Sami Zayn a better choice at this point in time than Gunther? You want my honest opinion. You guys want me to be honest with you, right? Yes, I think so. I know, boom, internet casual fans, what the hell is Nerdy D talking about? I'm going to say it's timing. Gunther is going to have a lengthy World Heavyweight Championship run. He's not going to ever be one of those guys where the title bounces on and off of him. So I think Gunther deserves the World Heavyweight Championship. He deserves a lengthy run, but let's push that out a little bit. Let's do that next year. Let's do that maybe post WrestleMania next year. Let's get Gunther the big belt and let's let him hold it for a long time. So if you're asking me right now, I think Sami Zayn is a better choice than Gunther, especially for this winter we're about to go through. So then we got to step over to, is Sami Zayn better than Jey Uso as far as being a world champion? I tell you, flip a coin here. I think they're interchangeable at this point. I think that in any story at this point, you could interchange Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, and you can flip a coin where you end up. They both have extremely high potential. So I'm just going to give it to Sami because we know Sami can get over with the crowd. We have not seen Jey Uso reach that next level. He's close. He's very close, but he hasn't hit that next I can do it on my own level that we've seen Sami flirt with in the last year. So then you got to ask, is Sami Zayn better than Drew McIntyre? That's tough. I think that the upside on Sami Zayn is actually higher than the upside on Drew McIntyre. I think, and this is just my thought, but I think that Drew McIntyre has peaked. We've seen the best of Drew McIntyre we're ever going to see. And I don't think that's a bad thing because that peak is extremely high. I just don't think that putting a world title on Drew McIntyre is going to elevate him to some new level. He's just going to be Drew McIntyre plus a championship. I envision that a Drew McIntyre title run at this point in time is going to be overly predictive. It's going to be booked extremely safe. And it's, dare I say, probably going to feel a little bit boring. So that leaves us lastly with Damian Priest. Is Sami Zayn a better choice than Damian Priest? Okay, here we go. No, I don't think so. But I'm going to put an asterisk next to that because I think Sami could be the perfect choice to do the transition to Damian Priest. Because here's the problem. Unfortunately, I see Sami Zayn a lot like I see Dolph Ziggler. And I'm talking about the Dolph Ziggler in his prime. The crowd loves him, but he's a guy who just can't carry the strap long term. The company's just not going to do that. If you're asking me, I different opinion, right? Dolph Ziggler, fuck it. He should have had the title. He should have been a champion a lot longer. Same with Sami. I think if you ask me, I think they should have struck when the iron was hot. I do believe that at Elimination Chamber, he should have ended Roman's streak and we should have just moved on and seen what happens. But I'm not a big records guy. I'm not a big streaks guy. I more believe that you have to strike when the iron's hot and take what the moment gives you. You've got to see what LA Knight can do when he's at the top of that mountain, because sometimes being at the top of that mountain and winning can catapult you to that superstar level. So I think the problem for Sami is he's cooled off considerably. Like, he still gets a pretty decent pop, but it's 50% less than what it used to be, especially around Elimination Chamber last year. That was kind of the pinnacle. Then I think he was still pretty hot in WrestleMania, but after that, him and KO's tag team run was not as good as most people wanted it to be. And I think that he definitely began to cool off a little bit. Could he get it back? Sure, I think so. I think Sami Zayn works best in an underdog story. I think if you're really serious about Sami Zayn as a champion, then you have him dethrone Seth Rollins, maybe at Survivor Series, I don't know, maybe farther down the line. And then you immediately have Damian Priest cash in on Sami that night, beginning the empathy story. The fans are not happy. Puts extreme heel heat on Damian Priest. It puts Sami Zayn in a position for that kind of Daniel Bryan ultimate baby face. It just puts you in that light where the fans are just empathetic to everything you do. And then what you do is you start to climb back. You start having Sami struggle to get back to be able to get to Damian. You have all of these obstacles placed in his way until ultimately at a big event like SummerSlam, he builds up the ability to finally conquer someone like Damian. Now, problem with that, it kind of turns Damian Priest into a sacrificial villain, but ultimately that's kind of what heels are, right? Like, if you're booking heels correctly, they should win a title, be strong, but kind of be a sacrificial heel for the next babyface that comes along. So I don't think that's too big of a deal. But what I know is I'm not sold on Drew McIntyre being world heavyweight champion, if that's the direction that WWE might go. Unless, here's the only thing, unless it's a play to keep Drew McIntyre happy because he's supposedly in contract negotiations and hasn't signed a new contract, that would be the only reason that you would put the title on Drew. But then I hate when world titles are used as like dangling carrots to get somebody like, oh, if you re-sign this contract, I'll make you a world champion. I think that's a disservice to fans. And the reality is, y'all know me by now, until Chicago comes and goes, and CM Punk does not show up, the money play, the play for the big ratings is CM Punk fighting Seth Rollins. That's it. That is the big money play. That is the play that wins the ratings. That is the play that buries AEW. But in an alternate universe, Sami Zayn could work. I will say, after kind of talking through this topic, yes, Sami Zayn is a world title contender, and Sami Zayn could be a credible world heavyweight champion. Now, I keep seeing the IWC call the world heavyweight championship a consolation prize. And I keep asking, what do you guys want WWE to do to counter that argument? Because I ultimately agree. I think that there is definitely a hierarchy to the titles right now. It goes undisputed, then world heavyweight, then intercontinental. But what do? It's hard to take that title and give it more prestige. My answer is that you have to go with the title structure that I suggested a few months ago, which is a 3-tier title structure for the heavyweight titles, and that is you give Roman. You elevate the Undisputed to like a grand championship. You have the World Heavyweight, and then you introduce another major title on SmackDown that will kind of compete on the same level as the World Heavyweight. And so that ultimately kind of raises both of those titles to that next level. But I don't think there is a way ever again to create 2 titles the way you had when you had the Universal and you had the WWE title, even though I always argued with the IWC that even when you had those 2 titles, the Universal title always felt like it was just a slight level above the other title. So let's talk about